Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are staring directly at a problem that I think everyone feels in their gut.
Hmm.
Even if you don't quite have the language for it yet, it's that, subtle background hum of anxiety,
Right.
that feeling that everything is moving just a little bit too fast to control.
It's that low-level sense that the systems we've built, whether it's at work or in the financial markets,
Or even just our social feeds.
exactly, they're starting to outpace our ability to actually manage them. It feels like we're building these race cars, but we're not quite sure if the steering wheel is actually connected to the wheels anymore.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the source material we're covering today offers a metaphor that is just so on point for this moment. It's all about safety.
But not the kind of safety you're thinking of.
No, not hard hats or high-vis vests or guardrails. We're talking about the concept of the circuit breaker.
Right. And to get this, you just have to think about your own house. You're in the kitchen, you plug in the space heater, the toaster,
And the hairdryer. All at once.
and the electrical load gets too high, the heat builds up in the wires, and then pop, the lights go out.
It's so annoying. You have to go down to the basement with a flashlight, find the box, flip the switch.
But that annoyance, it actually prevented your house from burning down.
It's a crude mechanical stop. It forces a pause when the system is just completely overloaded.
Precisely. But the source we're diving into today, it's called The Human Circuit Breaker, Judgment in the Cognitive Age. And it argues that we've entered a new era.
Where that mechanical fuse isn't enough.
Right. In what they call the cognitive age, we are the fuse box.
That's the core thesis, isn't it? That human judgment is the ultimate circuit breaker.
The ultimate, yeah.
And I want to be clear right off the bat, this isn't just some poetic, rah-rah humans are special kind of argument.
No, not at all.
The source is making what feels like a structural engineering argument. It's saying that complex systems, especially those driven by AI and automation, they eventually hit a wall that code just cannot climb.
It creates a structural necessity for humans. We aren't just kept in the loop for, nostalgia. We're there because without us, the system breaks.
They use some incredible examples to ground this. It's not just abstract theory. They talk about aviation.
Aviation is the classic example, right?
Right.
High-stakes automation. You have autopilots today that are technically better at flying a plane than a human pilot for, what, probably 99% of the flight.
Oh, for sure. They're smoother, more fuel efficient. They hold altitude perfectly.
And they never get tired or distracted.
But it's that 1%. That's where all the terrifying stuff lives.
Exactly. When you hit a storm that wasn't on the radar, or you have a dual engine failure at a low altitude,
Situations that are not in the training data?
right, the automation often just disengages.
Mm.
Or worse, it tries to apply standard logic to a totally non-standard situation.
Mm.
And that's when you need a human. You need a pilot who can look out the window, feel the vibration of the yoke, and make a choice based on reality, not just sensors.
The source also brings up medicine. You can have an AI diagnostic tool that's read every medical journal in existence.
It can correlate 1 million data points to find some rare disease.
But the source argues it's the clinician who has to weigh that data against what they call lived reality.
And lived reality is such a crucial phrase here. An AI might recommend a treatment that is, statistically perfect, the gold standard.
But if the patient is homeless, has no support system, can't refrigerate the medication, that treatment fails.
The AI doesn't know that context unless someone explicitly enters it as data. The human clinician sees it in the patient's eyes or hears it in their voice.
And then there's governance, bureaucracy, just the capacity to say stop when the momentum of the organization is screaming go.
So the conflict we're setting up here is really the central tension of our time. On one side, you have AI and automation unmatched speed, scale, consistency.
And on the other, you have the human. Structurally necessary not because we're faster, but because we are the only ones capable of stepping outside the system to save it.
Which is the mission of this deep dive.
We're going to explore why efficiency, which we usually worship, can actually be dangerous. We're going to dismantle the phrase human in the loop, which it turns out is a total lie half the time.
And finally, figure out how we remain wise when the world just keeps accelerating.
Okay, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So first up, the efficiency paradox. And I feel like I need to confess something here. I love efficiency. I'm obsessed with it.
I think most of us are.
If an AI can write a summary for me in 10 seconds that used to take an hour, or an algorithm can route me through traffic 5 minutes faster, I am thrilled. I am not looking for a pause.
And you shouldn't be for those tasks. The source totally admits that. AI is incredible at processing data and optimizing. It follows what engineers call objective functions.
Okay, define that for us. Objective function.
It's basically the mathematical goal you give the machine. Maximize clicks, minimize fuel consumption.
Route the car the fastest way possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the machine just relentlessly moves toward that goal.
Yeah.
It doesn't get bored, it doesn't get distracted, and it doesn't second-guess itself.
But I'm sensing a but is coming.
But the source pivots here. They argue that there's a massive hidden trade-off. They write, as systems become more efficient, they become less reflective.
Less reflective. That's interesting.
Well, think about it. Reflection requires a pause. It requires stopping to look back or look sideways or ask, is this actually what we want?
And if you're optimized purely for forward speed, you lose the ability to look around.
You have tunnel vision by design.
The source has this great line that really stuck with me. It says, AI does not feel tension, doubt, or moral friction.
Real friction. That's a concept we need to get comfortable with.
It sounds so uncomfortable. I mean, in my daily life, I try to avoid friction. I want things to be smooth.
In a social sense, sure. But in a decision-making sense, moral friction is like the sand in the gears that tells you something is wrong. It's that hesitation you feel when a decision just doesn't sit right, even if the numbers look good. AI has zero hesitation. It will drive you right off a cliff if that's the most efficient route to its objective function.
And that leads to the source's big warning. Unchecked efficiency is brittle.
Brittle. It means it breaks easily under stress. A system that never doubts itself, never checks its blind spots.
It might look incredibly decisive and clear from the outside.
But it's masking this dangerous loss of sensitivity to context. It's like a sports car with no suspension. It's super fast on a perfect track, but one pothole just destroys it.
This brings us to a distinction that I think is the intellectual anchor of this whole piece, the difference between computation and judgment.
Right.
Because we use them interchangeably, don't we? We say, oh, the computer judged the situation.
And the source says that is fundamentally wrong. Machines detect patterns, humans interpret meaning, machines optimize, humans judge.
They have a very specific, almost beautiful definition of judgment in the text. I actually want to read it to make sure I get it right. They define judgment as the ability to hold competing values in tension and choose anyway.
Competing values, that is the key. An algorithm really struggles with competing values unless you've already mathematically weighted them for it, like value speed at 60% and safety at 40%.
But the real world isn't math.
Never.
Sometimes you have to choose between profit and employee well-being, or public safety and privacy. And the answer isn't always 60-40, it changes.
It changes based on the day, the person, the context. Imagine a hospital administrator during a crisis. The objective function might say, maximize bed turnover.
Get people out, get people in.
But the judgment says, this patient isn't ready, even if the chart says they are. No model can do this without borrowing a human conscience. The source argues that when we face these trade-offs, we aren't just calculating, we're agonizing.
And that agony, that struggle, it's actually functional.
Yes. It's what prevents us from becoming sociopathic in our decision-making.
Now, there is a counter-argument to this. I hear it all the time from the tech optimists, the edge case myth.
Oh, yeah.
The idea is, sure, self-driving cars or medical AI might make mistakes now, but just give it 5 years. With enough data, they'll handle the edge cases better than people.
And the source hits back at that idea pretty hard. It argues that AI works for well-defined, repeatable problems, but it fails at novelty, ambiguity, and human consequence.
Because an edge case isn't just a rare statistical event, is it?
No, and that's the misunderstanding. An edge case in this context often means a situation where the rules no longer apply. It's when a protest breaks out in front of the autonomous vehicle.
The car doesn't know what a protest is.
It just sees obstacles. Or a patient presents with symptoms that contradict their medical history in a way that implies abuse, not illness.
Right. You need the human ability to just say, wait, this doesn't feel right. You need intuition, which is really just synthesized experience that we can't quite articulate yet.
Exactly. So we've established we need humans. The tech industry knows this, which is why we have this ubiquitous buzz phrase.
Human in the loop.
Yes.
It's the ultimate comfort blanket. Don't worry, the AI isn't deciding to launch the drone strike or deny your mortgage. There's a human in the loop.
It sounds so safe. But the source takes a sledgehammer to this concept. It calls the current practice of human in the loop frequently hollow.
Hollow. That's disturbing.
Well, think about how it actually works in a modern corporation. You have an automated system processing thousands of claims an hour. A human sits at a screen. The AI says reject, and the human has to click confirm.
And if they're doing that every 10 seconds,
They're not thinking. They're rubber stamping. If the decisions are coming too fast, or if the human trusts the machine too much because it's usually right, are they really a safeguard?
the source says no. They call them a witness.
A witness. You are there to watch the car crash, not to stop it. You have no real agency.
You're legally present, but cognitively absent.
Which brings us to what is probably the most practical educational part of this deep dive. The source outlines 3 specific requirements. They say if you want a human to actually be a circuit breaker,
To actually be in the loop.
3 conditions must exist. If you lose one, the loop is a lie.
Okay, let's break them down. This feels like a checklist every manager, maybe every employee, should have on their wall.
Absolutely.
Requirement number 1, proximity.
Proximity means being close enough to the decision point to intervene meaningfully. And this isn't just physical distance, it's informational distance.
So you can't be in a headquarters in London looking at a sanitized weekly report of what the AI did in a factory in Singapore.
Exactly. You have to be at the coalface, so to
Yeah.
speak. You need to see the raw input, not just the polished output. You need to see the messiness that data might be hiding.
Okay, that makes sense. Requirement number 2, authority.
This is the big one. They must have the actual power to override the system.
This feels like a cultural issue more than a technical one.
It is 100% cultural. Imagine you're that operator. The AI suggests a course of action. You disagree. But to override it, you have to fill out 3 forms, email your boss, and justify why you are lowering the efficiency metrics for the day.
Do you have authority? Technically, yes.
Practically, no. You're disincentivized to use your judgment. The system literally punishes you for stopping it.
So if you don't have the big red button and the organizational clout to press it without getting fired, you're not in the loop.
You're just a spectator. And that brings us to requirement number 3, time.
The system has to move slowly enough for reflection to occur.
Yes. This brings us back to friction. If the AI is making high-frequency trading decisions in microseconds or routing gig economy workers in milliseconds, no human can possibly be in the loop.
By the time your brain registers a problem, the damage is already done.
It's over.
So proximity, authority, time. If you don't have those, you're not a safety valve. You're just furniture.
And the lack of these 3 things leads to a really dangerous phenomenon the source calls cognitive distance.
I found this concept fascinating and honestly a little terrifying. What exactly is cognitive distance?
It's the gap between what a system is actually doing to the world and what the human operator can understand, feel, and respond to.
And as systems scale up and speed up, that distance just grows and grows.
It does. So if I'm sitting in an office and an algorithm is denying insurance claims for thousands of people, I don't see the families losing their homes.
You just see a percentage on a dashboard. Claim denial rate, 12%.
Correct. The reality has been abstracted into math. And when that distance grows too large, the source warns that empathy cannot intervene.
That is chilling.
It leads to the dissolution of accountability. Harm becomes abstract until it's irreversible. There's a quote here we really need to highlight. A system that outruns human empathy is unsafe, even if it is statistically accurate.
Wow. That flips the whole definition of safety on it.
It does. Well,
We usually measure safety by accuracy. It got 99.9% right. But the source is saying if it's moving faster than our ability to care about the 0.1%, it hurts. It's unsafe.
because eventually that 0.1% will be something catastrophic. And because of that cognitive distance, no one will feel empowered to stop it. Everyone will just point at the algorithm and say,
I didn't do it, the machine did.
that washes everyone's hands of the consequences.
Which brings us to a section of the source that, I'll be honest, surprised me. I didn't expect to see this term in a text about AI and systems engineering. They start talking about emotional intelligence.
EQ?
Yeah, usually when I hear EQ in a business context, I think of soft skills. You know, being nice in meetings, reading the room.
Not being a jerk.
Right. But the source reframes this completely. It says that view of EQ is not just wrong, it's dangerous.
It argues that in high-velocity environments, emotional intelligence is safety infrastructure. It is not optional. It is functional.
So how does EQ function as safety gear? What does a leader with high EQ actually do to stop the system from crashing?
They do things an algorithm would never think to do. First, they sense overload.
Sense overload.
A machine will just keep processing until its buffer overflows and it crashes. It doesn't know it's stressed. A human leader with high EQ can look at a team or a situation and say, We are moving too fast. The vibe is off. We are missing something.
They can feel the tension in the room. They can read the silence.
Exactly. And secondly, they create psychological safety under pressure.
Why is psychological safety so important for system safety?
Because if people are afraid to speak up, if they're afraid to say, hey, I think the data is wrong, then you have no circuit breaker. You have groupthink. You have what the source calls moral outsourcing.
Moral outsourcing. That's when you just let the machine carry the ethical burden.
Precisely. It's the computer says no attitude.
Yeah.
High EQ keeps humans engaged. It prevents panic. It keeps people feeling responsible for the outcome, even when automation tempts them to check out.
It's so interesting because usually we think of emotions as the thing that messes up decisions.
Right. Don't get emotional. Look at the data.
But here, the source is saying, no, your emotions, your anxiety, your hesitation, your gut feeling, those are actually data points.
They're the early warning system that the logic of the machine has drifted away from the reality of the world. The machine has the map. Your emotions are sensing the territory.
So we've covered the efficiency paradox, the lie of human in the loop, and the NIS for EQ. But now we get to a twist. The source talks about fragility. And typically, when we talk about complex tech, we worry about the tech breaking. We worry about bugs, glitches, server crashes.
But the source corrects us here. It says that technology is actually quite robust. The human is the fragile component.
We're the weak link?
In a sense, yes. Not because we're incompetent, but because we don't scale like computers do. Our institutions adapt so slowly. Our attention is fragmented. Our trust is brittle.
And there's a line here, moral deliberation lags behind our tools.
That is the big one. We can build a tool in a month that changes society like generative AI, but it takes us decades to figure out the moral rules for it. That gap is where the danger lies.
So if we're the fragile part, but we're also the safety mechanism, that's a scary combination.
It is.
And it requires a shift in the questions we ask. We've been obsessed with asking, what can machines do?
Can it write a poem? Can it drive a car? Can it diagnose cancer?
And the source says we need to stop asking that. The real question is, how do we remain wise when everything accelerates?
Wisdom versus intelligence. Intelligence is processing power. Wisdom is knowing where to point it.
So the solution the source proposes is what they call judgment architectures.
Yeah.
I love that term. It sounds so structural. What does it look like in practice?
It means we stop viewing this cognitive revolution as a battle. Human versus machine. It's a negotiation.
A negotiation between speed and sense-making.
Yes. We design systems that let the machine go fast, but force a pause when it matters. We need to build systems that don't eliminate friction, but deliberately place friction at moments where values have to be asserted.
That is so counterintuitive. Every product designer I know is obsessed with frictionless experiences. One-click buy, instant play.
Seamless integration.
And here we are saying, no, put the friction back in.
Because resilient systems need that friction. If you make it too easy to launch the missile or fire the employee or deny the claim, you remove the judgment. You remove the circuit breaker. A judgment architecture is a system designed to empower humans to think, feel, and intervene when it matters most.
It's about knowing where to put the speed bump. You don't put a speed bump on the highway, but you definitely put one in front of the school.
That's a perfect analogy. And ensuring that when you hit that speed bump, the human sitting there has the proximity, the authority, and the time to actually make a decision.
It means designing software that sometimes says, are you sure? Explain your reasoning before you proceed. It's asking for a human signature, not just a digital click.
Right. It forces the human to re-engage their brain, to step out of autopilot, and to own the decision.
This has been such an eye-opener. It really changes how I look at my own reliance on these tools. We started this deep dive talking about a fuse box, and I think we've arrived at a place where we realize we're the only thing standing between the live wire and the house burning down.
That's the reality. AI offers us incredible speed, but speed without direction is just a crash waiting to happen. We have to provide the pause. We aren't just operators pushing buttons. We are the safety system.
So what does this all mean for the listener? Whether you're managing a team or using a new AI tool or just trying to navigate this crazy fast world?
I think the biggest takeaway is to stop viewing your own hesitation as a flaw. If you feel like things are moving too fast, that is a functional signal. That's your judgment kicking in. Don't suppress it. Lean into it.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with a final provocative thought from the source. It's a bit of a warning, actually.
It is. The source concludes with this. The future will not punish leaders for pausing. It will punish those who outsource judgment.
That is heavy.
It forces a question on all of us. If you're using these tools at work, in your life, ask yourself, do you actually have the proximity, the authority, and the time to stop the machine?
Or are you just a witness? Are you a circuit breaker or just a spectator? That's the question to carry with you this week. Thanks for listening to this Deep Dive.
Stay wise out there.
See you next time.